Yeah, no, I basically just made up the whole player housing thing in my head and decided that it might happen, and now I'm finding like evidence that it will, which is my favorite way of finding evidence. Choose the thing that you think is going to happen, then find the evidence to fit. It'll always work out, and you'll never look stupid. What evidence? Well, okay, so if you haven't watched the new weekly reset, please do. All the way through, you know, and click on the ads. But so it was this time last week. You know, we did the podcast, and then the day after the podcast, Blizzard announced 10.2.5, which they don't usually do on a Friday. They don't usually do that kind of shit on a Friday. Back in BFA, they used to do that shit all the time, which is why the weekly reset being at the weekend was so good. They don't tend to do that so much now. They tend to do it kind of like earlier on in the week. But that's how they did 10.2.5. And that was fun, wasn't it? And, you know, follower dungeons in 10.2.5 are absolutely wild. Like a massive, massive feature. Huge feature. A box feature, I would say, honestly, you know, for a new expansion. And the fact that they didn't mention it at BlizzCon, you know, when they're trying to build hype and trying to make everyone love WoW, follower dungeons are a slam dunk. And the fact that they're willing to sit on a slam dunk at BlizzCon, fully intending to, like, slam dunk it 2 weeks after all the hype, that's amazing to me, right? So what I did was I wrote on Twitter this. The fact they did not mention follower dungeons at BlizzCon is wild. Makes me wonder what else they did not mention. Which you know, bang a tweet, 1.2k likes, boom. Bit of a slam dunk fucking tweet, if you ask me. Pretty happy with that one. But then, Holly Longdale. If there is a big boss of of WoW, it's Holly Longdale, right? She's like the senior producer or something. Commented with eye emojis. Which makes me go, But not only that, Zorbrix, who is lead game producer of World of Warcraft, responded with, bookmarking this post for later. Jordan Powers, who is lead prop artist on World of Warcraft, responded with, sly dog face emoji. Bex, who is an animator at World of Warcraft, responded with sly kitten gif. Haughty Chicken is wonderful. Muffinus, who is associate game director on World of Warcraft, responded with emoji. Strokey chin emoji. Anne Stickney, who is senior narrative designer of World of Warcraft, responded with a GIF. Jen Eric, another World of Warcraft employee on their what's his official title? Warcraft social team, and Jen, I think Jen works for Blizz as well. Pretty sure. Responded with a. My bet is they just trolling. I don't know, fam. That's some pretty fucking coordinated trolling, if you ask me. That is some pretty fucking coordinated trolling. If they and also, why would they do that if they don't have anything? Can we, like, people are always so quick to go, I think these fake leaks are, like, planted by Blizzard. I think Blizzard trolling. Like, can we think about what that would mean for a second? Like, they are, with these replies, they are setting expectations that there is something coming. Why would they do that if there was nothing coming? That would just make them look shit. That would just upset everyone. Like, what? Like, if they are trolling and there's not actually anything coming, it would be the most stupid thing they've ever done. Marissa, who is producer at Blizzard Entertainment, responded with, wide-eyed Kyle. Is it Kyle? Is his name? What's this guy's name? Is he Keenan? Which one is he? I don't know, but I love. Yeah. Anyway, Oh, and Kat, we're not finished. Kat, who is a game designer working on dungeons and raids in World of Warcraft, responded with a... Okay, oh, he is Keenan, is he? Okay, he loves orange soda, right? That's the one I remember him from. We don't get Saturday Night Live in this country, so I know he's in that now, but, you know, he's Keenan and Kel forever, right? So, that is no less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 responses from people who work on World of Warcraft. One of them from Holly Longdale herself. Holly, I'm so sorry. I always say Holly Lonsdale for some reason. And I know it's wrong, and I am stupid, and I am very sorry that I keep mispronouncing your name. Like, it's kind of like nothing more insulting than mispronouncing someone's name a lot of the time, and I genuinely apologize for that. I don't know why I'm so stupid. I don't know why I keep saying it. So, yeah. 9 responses on my tweet from people who work on Blizzard. And I don't know about you, fam. I don't want to be overly dramatic, right? But for me, that is confirming that yes, indeed, there certainly is something on the level, on the box feature level of follower dungeons that they have not yet mentioned and that they will be dropping before the expansion is out. And, you know, the question is, what are those? What could that thing possibly be? Maybe it's more than one, but let's play it safe. Let's just say it's one thing. What could it be? Well, for me, the obvious one would be a dungeon. A dungeon, mini raid, something that could, like, spice up the fated raid season, something like that. The thing I think it is, though, is player housing. Now, what evidence do I have of that? Literally nothing. Except this tweet and the responses. But somewhere in my tiny little head, I've just got a feeling, okay? I've just got a feeling. And I've just got a feeling. I can't, it's just a gut feeling. You know how I had that gut feeling that the Avaloran leak was wrong? I've just got a gut feeling. And like I say, this is an absolutely no-lose prediction for me. Because if it's not player housing, people won't look back and go, oh, remember when Tali thought it was player housing? Fucking idiot. They'll just be like, well, of course he was wrong about player housing. It was a very stupid thing to suggest. He must have known it was stupid. Like, you know, but if I'm right, oh, holy shit, I look like the biggest genius in the world. You know, Tali called it was player housing. Just saying. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it's a bit shitty of me, but it is what it is. So, you know, yeah, print it, mark it. I think it's player housing. I think... So I've got this theory, and again, this is based on nothing. Literally based on nothing. There's still time for Tuskar to be playable. There is still time for Tuskar to be playable. If we get to the end of this expansion and Tuskar aren't made playable, I mean, it could be that as well. It could definitely be that. Something on the level of a new playable race, yeah. If we get to the end of this expansion and Tuskar aren't playable, they will never be playable. Never be playable. I can absolutely see it as being playable Tuskar, yeah. I think it's most likely to be like a dungeon or something like that. You know, I don't know if you've done the epilogue quests after the raid yet. This isn't really a spoiler, so don't worry. But you do meet up with, like, that Knoll who you made, like, the king. And he's talking about Deadeye and how, like, he's looking at the new tree, Amirdasil, and he's like, Deadeye is not going to like this. She is going to attack it with all her rot magic. Which, you know, yeah... expected. We haven't heard much of the whole rot thing since Deadeye disappeared at the end of the Tuskar dungeon, right? And maybe that'd be a good way to get him playable Tuskar as well. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. So here's my. I'm going to explain my thought process to you, right? Well, it's only a couple of hours before you go back to Nighthold. 100% the Nighthold quests will release this week. The tier Nighthold quests. So I'm really interested to see how big those are or not. I think it's just going to be a little scenario in there, right? Here's my thinking. My little pet theory, which again is based on no evidence at all, is that the technology that enables warbands, because we know that for warbands to work, they had to systemically, like, actually undo a lot of their engine. Usually they'll try and build on stuff and, you know, do little tricks to make it work. We know that with warbands, they had to take their shit apart and just rebuild something from scratch to make warbands work. Awesome. My little pet theory in my head is that the reason they started doing that was not for warbands, but was for player housing. And warbands are like a knock-on effect, you know? I think in my head, they started taking this thing apart and rebuilding it so that player housing could happen. And a knock-on effect is it's like, oh shit, we can do this now as well. Yeah, warbands are a byproduct and easier to get some like graphics up and shit of or whatever. Not such a complicated thing to reveal. I don't know, whatever, man. Yeah, that's what in my head. Is that implying account-wide player housing? Well, there are certain things that you'd have to enable with kind of like account-wide stuff that you would probably need for player housing to work. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not a dev. I'm probably completely wrong. This is just my stupid little like headcanon that I've got, right? In my head, it's a possibility, you know, that this stuff was developed specifically to make player housing happen, and a byproduct is that warbands can also happen. Banger. So that's my first little kind of theory. My second theory is, what easier place is there, both narratively and technically, to add player housing? Like, if you need an area for player housing, right? So you need like a literal physical space for player housing, but you also need like a narrative reason as well. What more perfect opportunity is there than Amirdrasil? Maybe Gilneas as well, but particularly Amirdrasil, because Amirdrasil, everyone has taken part in growing this tree. The Night Elves are moving in. The Night Elves very, very famously enjoy providing shelter and housing to other races. They did it with the Gilneans when the Gilneans were thrown out of Gilneas, right? You know, loads of Gilneans went to live in Teldrassil at the Night Elves' invitation. So there's precedent there, right? And there's this thing of, it's like, hero, we couldn't have saved the tree without you. We are rebuilding the city right now. And they are. On the PTR, more and more Night Elf buildings, nice new high-res Night Elf buildings, we looked at it last stream, are cropping up under Amirdrasil. They're building a city there. 14 does player housing with no narrative beyond, hey, adventurer, want to buy a house? Yeah, but do you know the difference between 14 housing and WoW housing? 14 housing has always been part of the game. It was there from day one, so it didn't need any explanation. You're talking about introducing like a huge fundamental change to the game 20 years in, and it's nice to have the explanation. That's not true. Okay. Really? Okay, sure. So there wasn't player housing in Realm Reborn. I eat shit. I'm sorry, but still, it's been a part of the game okay, it was introduced in the 2.0. Wait, that is Realm Reborn. Are you saying it was introduced in Realm Reborn? Yeah. So it was. So okay. So I'm right then. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. When I'm talking about Final Fantasy 14, I'm talking about a Realm Reborn onwards. You know, the actual game, Final Fantasy, the one. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Good. Thank you. Fedora's off, everyone. Thanks for that. Yeah, you got me with semantics, fam. You were technically right, which, as everyone knows, is the best type of right to be. So yeah, player housing's been a part of the game since a Realm Reborn. So it doesn't need any explanation, right? Whereas, you know, it's nice to have some narrative justification for stuff like why do we all suddenly have houses? And is there a better opportunity to do that in WoW than Amirdrasil? No. But also more importantly, and this is more important, is there technically a better chance to do it? You're looking at Amirdrasil, which has exists in its own phase already. It's an open ground. You can put a building anywhere there and it fits. It's part of the new city and you can say it's player housing. It's like the visitor district, something like that. You've got an entire zone which is empty and open. The restoration of Gilneas would also be good. The problem with Gilneas is it is fucking tiny. We kind of forget how tiny Gilneas is. But, you know, that would be good too. I would also really, really like that in my head because Amirdrasil already exists in its own phase in a way that Gilneas doesn't really. and that phase was created very, very recently. It seems to me like it would be very, compared to anywhere else in the world, it would be easier to put there. So that's it. I just feel like there's never going to be a better opportunity to start doing player housing than and also don't forget that would mean the first instance of player housing. If it is in a Madrasil, that means the first instance of player housing and all of the things that teach you about player housing, like all the little quests and stuff that teach you how to do player housing, will be in a Madrasil, which is where new players will be starting the fucking game. That's also something very perfect about a Madrasil. The Dragon Isles and Dragonflight is going to be the new player experience from next expansion. It's such a perfect new player experience that I wouldn't be surprised if it stays the new player experience throughout the whole World Soul Saga. So not just the War Within, but also Midnight and The Last Titan. That's why it's so great that you have all of the dragon riding quests in Dragonflight, because it's something that actually is really handy for new players. And if all of the little quests that introduce player housing are in a Madrasil as well, that's also going to be pretty fucking handy, right? What does player housing give us that we don't already have? A never-ending collecting game, which isn't player power focused, a sense of ownership of the world, and a never-ending source of market for crafters, and a never-ending source of things that you can just invent for no fucking reason that crafters can make. And you can make those things as difficult to get the recipes for as you want. You can make those things as difficult to get the regents for as you want. It doesn't matter because it's not player power related. At the moment with crafting, you the thing that people want with crafting, when they talk about what they want crafting to be, a lot of the time, what people actually want is they want to be, I am this crafter. That is this character's role in World of Warcraft. Yeah, I'm a warrior or a monk or whatever, but first and foremost, this character, he's actually a fucking he's a blacksmith. So what they want is they want to have the opportunity, if they work really hard, to be the only blacksmith on the server that can make a certain thing. And it's whoa, we need this thing, we need to go to this guy. Now, the problem is you can't really do that with player power related things. If, the only things crafters can really craft are, player power stuff, then to some degree, those things have to be readily available. To some degree, everyone has to be able to do it. It's just a case of grinding out your blacksmithing. Whereas if it's I'm the only person that can make this fucking candelabra, or I'm the only person on the server that can make this certain type of floorboard, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. It's you can only get the fucking wood for this floorboard once a year. It literally sprouts on Christmas Day. And if you don't fucking harvest it, you haven't fucking got it for a year. And you can do it if it's just for some bullshit fucking floorboards, right? That aren't player power related at all. And that's what people want from their crafting. That's what people want from professions to a large degree. They want to be able to log on and they are just a carpenter. That's what they do. They chop down some fucking trees. They sand some wood. They make some things. And then they're the people that do. And they're known for it as much as who the Realm First Guild on your server are. That will never happen without player housing. Because otherwise, all the stuff that crafters are making is mostly player power related, because that's the only way to keep it, in demand. Carpenters can't chop down trees, though. Those are lumberjacks. I'm sure the Venn diagram of carpenters and lumberjacks isn't as two separate circles as you're giving it credit for there. So no, I think the Final Fantasy XIV housing system is really, really good. Personally, I don't think it would be right for WoW. I think the ESO housing system is the one that WoW should try and copy if they copied anything. That's my personal opinion. I think the ESO one of having, in-game and in-universe kind of in-game area kind of phased things that you get, and you get multiple ones and everyone can get them and there's no fucking scarcity. Holy fuck. It's amazing because what happens then is you literally get an apartment in a certain place for like a raid reward or something like that, and the others that you can only buy with gold and stuff. Yeah. The whole scarcity thing in Final Fantasy, like, so the good thing about Final Fantasies 1 is that you have neighbors and you know who your neighbors are, and that's actually really, really cool. And you're like, well, that guild is in that house over there and that guild is in that house over there. That's awesome. It's so fucking cool. So that is something you lose by having the ESO system, but I think overall the ESO one is definitely better for WoW. And there's no reason why it has to be scarce in Final Fantasy 14. There's literally, like, you know, there's no reason why anyone should not have a house who wants one in Final Fantasy 14. It's just like server capacity. They just need to increase it, right? It's like, why? I have no idea why that scarcity exists. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Wildstar had the best of both of those. I never got to player housing. I always try and avoid the Wildstar conversation when I talk about player housing, because I did play the tiniest bit of Wildstar, but my laptop at the time couldn't really handle it, and I certainly didn't get as far as housing for everyone, communist. Exactly. Yeah, that's why we like it. Ha ha ha. I love all the people who think I'm a communist. I think it's really fun. And its customization was... Oh, I hear the customization for Wildstar was like off the fucking chart, honestly. Yeah, totally. To not overload the servers is why I think Final Fantasy 14 housing is limited. Yes, like I say, I think it's literally just a server issue. Yeah. But I don't think people want like a completely different area of Stormwind or Orgrimmar that they've never seen before, that suddenly exists. It's full of player housing. I don't think that's what people want from WoW. I think they want their apartment in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, right? They want to walk down the street and like, this is where your apartment is, and it's like in the town fucking square, like where you've passed by every day for 20 years and you go in there, right?